Got a few more people coming in.
Hello.
Hi, my name's Carolyn Casson. I'm the president and CEO of Michigan Women Forward, and I'm just here to welcome you to the cash flow training and recovery plan seminar. So if you thought you were in, how to get a $1 million grant or something, you're in the wrong session. So go somewhere else. Look for another session. This is going to be an exciting opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Resilience Fund that we've put together to help you start your business back up again. It's been a pretty tough couple months, but we're here to help at Michigan Women Forward. I'm joined today by Allison Boyle, who's the Chief Financial Officer of Michigan Women Forward. She's an expert in all things finance and cash flow. We think that most of you have been on our website, MWF.org, and have looked at the opportunity to apply for either a grant and or a microloan to start your business back up again as soon as this executive order is lifted, which we think many of us will be able to go back to work, at least on a limited basis, starting in June. And so we're here to try to find to help you fill out the forms that will help you get a small grant or a microloan to get back up and running. So if that's what you're here for, welcome. We're really glad to see all of you. I think there are 100 of you who signed up for this. So this is going to be pretty fast paced. We're going to spend about 20 minutes talking to you about that all important cash flow template that is in the grant request and also in the microloan request. So if you want either one of those things, a grant or a microloan, you need to fill out this form. Allison's going to show you how to fill out the cash flow statement, and I'm going to tell you how to fill out the recovery plan, because you need those two things to qualify for this grant and loan opportunity. So the chat room is down there if you want to ask some questions. We're going to put all of you on mute so that we can get through the material. We're going to try to leave 10 or 20 minutes at the end so that you can ask individual questions. We want this money to get out to you as soon as we possibly can, but you got to fill out these two forms to make sure that we understand where your business was prior to COVID, where you are now, what you need, and how much it's going to cost you to get it. So that's why we're all here today. There are more exciting topics to talk about probably, but this is the one that hopefully will lead to a grant or a microloan for you. So the only other thing I think I'm supposed to say is that we are going to record this so that we can share it, so that people who couldn't make this seminar, because we had a lot of people who wanted to get in, you're the lucky ones. I don't know why it happened that way, but anyway, we're going to do this live for you, and then we'll post this on our website. If you know of anybody who said I couldn't get in, just go to our website, MIWF.org. That's where the application is. That's where the forms are that you're going to be filling out. And let's get started. Allison, take it away.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for taking your time to spend this with us. Yes, we will be recording it. It should be posted tomorrow morning is our hope. So please don't just hang up and think it's going to be there. Usually takes a little bit. I'm going to share my screen, and it's going to be the actual, if I can find it. Here we go. This is the template that is the cash flow and recovery plan template that is required for the application for either the grant or the loan. There are 4 tabs at the bottom. Starts with personal cash planner, then business cash planner and instructions, and then recovery and pivot cash needs. We're going to start with the first one that is most helpful, which is the instructions. We've tried to describe for each of the templates on the tabs what they are for. So you start here where it says personal cash planner, and it gives you some of the explanations of what the rows mean. And then it goes down to the business cash planner. And then it will go down to the recovery and pivot cash needs, and then overall comments. Anything that is in red is just a statement that says it's a computation, so please don't override it with information, data entry information. It will do its own calculation. Okay, so those are the things in the red font. And then overall are just your general statements. So let's start first with why is a cash flow important? As we all recognize, many of us were not prepared for the catastrophic events of COVID and shutting down most of the economy. What a cash flow does is it provides you with a projection and a baseline for what your cash is of the business that you're running. As you know, cash is queen. And so we need to make sure that we're positive in cash before we can continue to operate. So the cash flow itself is intended to look at some weeks retrospectively to give you a sense of before the floor fell out of the economy, what you were operating as on a weekly basis. All of this information, whether it's for your personal cash planner or your business cash planner, the other tab, is based on the actual information you have from your bank. So cash means the actual cash activity, not that you have a commitment for a purchase or you have an obligation for a payment. It's when the cash actually comes into you or leaves from you. So you have to be real mindful of that, because a lot of times if you have an accountant, they will tell you that you're working on an accrual basis, which means you record things when you either have the sale or the obligation, but this is really tracking the dollars and cents. So the personal cash planner, we have in here, why? Because most small businesses from time to time may need to fund their business with some personal dollars for to get them through a particularly tight cash position. Again, say you had a really big sale, but you haven't had the cash come in yet. So it's, while not required, we strongly recommend you fill this out because it is really helpful for you to understand where your cash is. Two, it's really important during this particular case because COVID affected both us personally and professionally. And so it's really helpful to understand both of those pieces. So the historical, we wanted to give you a couple weeks worth of business and personal operations before the COVID hit. And then the first few weeks of historical will be things since COVID and all the things that have to change. Now in personal, as in the business, all of these in column C, these are suggestions for categories for where your cash would come out of. Either it's for mortgage or rent or electricity and gas and etc. Any of those that don't make sense to you, don't fill it in. If you have a different expense, that's what these others are for, feel free to write over them. The only thing I suggest you not do is anything in yellow is a formula. You can see by up here, this is how it calculates this field. So anything in yellow, don't type in. Okay? And at the end of the day, the goal is row 48, which is the cash available to contribute to the business. So if at any time you need to contribute to the business, this is the dollar amount from your personal that would be available. Okay, so this is the personal cash planner. I want to spend a little more time on business cash planner. That's the next tab. Same layout in that you have retrospective, current, and prospective weeks. It's a little different in terms of the detail. So for instance, this is the cash your business generates. Either it's just the cash sales or collections on accounts receivable. So someone's made a commitment. It's due to you. When you enter it is when you actually receive the cash. We populated this to give you a sense as to how things work. So for instance, in my example here, I started with a cash balance, and the cash balance here is what I had on February 23rd. Okay, so my ending cash balance of the day before is my current cash balance of the next column. So for instance, on 2/24, this is all of my activity, my my revenue here, and then my expenses, the total cash your businesses will spend, and then my net cash balance or shortage. So see that $300 in row 53, column E? If I go up for the very next week, which is in my example, March 2nd, and I go up to here, that $300 in the yellow populates from the ending cash balance. Okay, so some of the things that we have added in here to give you some ideas relate to not only your revenues that are usual, but because of this unusual time frame, if you received a loan from the SBA for emergency funds, and then you would need to fill that out. For instance, in our example on May 4th, we said we received $5,000. So that would be cash. Then say we said the following week, we received PPP, the Payroll Protection Act. So we received that. That's when I received the cash, not the commitment. And then any other cash infusion. So for instance, here in March, I put $1,000 in, and then in April, I put another 200. And then in May, I put another 5,000. Again, this is just for example purposes to help you understand how it all works. So at the end, my cash that's available is row 22. So you will see in April 6th, I had $3,000 that was available for coming in, and then it dropped, and then it came back up. So it's really, it's going to vacillate based on your activity. The cash your business will spend, this is your payroll, this is your any benefits that you pay, rent and mortgage, taxes, fees, professional services. Anything that you have in here, fill out to the best of your ability based on what's in your bank statement or your bank record for that week. So the cash you will spend is this row, 51. And then the net cash is the difference between this row, 22, and 51. So your cash in less your cash out gives you the net cash balance. Okay? So what this is intended to do is to understand where you may be at risk of going negative. So for instance, your net cash balance, I was down to, on April 6th, I was down to $342. Say my funding, my cash available, my collections on accounts receivable instead of 1,100 was 550. Watch what happens. My cash balance goes to 20. Say my expense for payroll was 1,000. I'm suddenly negative in cash. When you see negative in cash, that's when you need to be as proactive as possible in order to avoid that being the case. So for instance, if I knew that because of those changes I made, my cash is negative, what is it that, and say that's 4 weeks out, what can I do differently to preserve that dollar amount? So it is not negative, but it is positive. So for instance, the week before, again, say this is June, I'm just making it up. If this is a day and I can't, for me to get down to my cash balance the week before of $342, if I can defer my rental payment by 3 weeks or 2 weeks, that will help me. So if this is 0, I suddenly have enough cash. This is what this is helpful for, because what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to project when you may run into a cash problem. Running into a cash problem is what you're trying to avoid, because if you don't have cash, you can't operate the business. So the overall philosophy of this is to make sure that you have not only a good sense as to what your expenses and revenues are in prior to COVID, but during COVID and then after COVID. We've had this go out for until the end of July. Again, as everything that you enter for the retrospective or the past dates should be absolutely accurate. Same with the current ones. And then obviously the dates that you're putting in, like on yesterday, All of this information should be fully accurate. This is going to be a little less accurate on the following week because you just don't know everything. 2 weeks out is going to be a little less accurate, but it gives you a really good sense. It also allows you to, okay, if the middle of the month looks like what it looked like in April, does that make sense for May? Does that make sense for June? Knowing what you know about your business trends right now. If you're totally still shut down, that's a different story than if you're still making some operational activity, seeing some operational activity. So I will pause here for a minute to focus on, again, the primary row that at the end of the each week you're looking at is row 53. So row 53 is your net cash balance. So it starts with your beginning balance of cash. It adds all your revenue. It subtracts all of your expenses, and it gives you where you are at the end of that week. So if it's negative, that's when in the future, then that's when you need to do something differently. And you need to do it sooner rather than later, so you have the ability to make those changes, to make those deferments, to ask for reconsideration, to try to expedite a payment. Say you got a really big purchase, and they, ask if they can pay 25%, rather than giving them full 30 days to make payment. Ask them if they can, defer a rent if you have to. I mean, all those little things really can add up and preserve cash so you can continue to operate until your business is back up and running. So with that, are there any questions, Carolyn, that have been posted that I need to specifically address? I'm trying to be very mindful of our time. I'm happy to answer however many questions and levels of detail. But again, this is an Excel spreadsheet, so it's all numbers. So just enter the numbers as you usually do in an Excel spreadsheet. Anything in yellow will populate, so don't touch anything in there.
Yeah, go get your bank, balance. Go online, look at all the expenses that came out of your bank account. There's not much you really need except what you paid for, to put on this for your business. So any questions? Any questions that anybody has? Because all of this leads to the recovery plan and leads to the grant and the loan. Anybody have anything? Allison's, I'll switch over. Do you want me to switch over to anyone have anything? She said, or there is someone said it went very quickly. Could you just go through it one more time with her and kind of say what this number is for, just so she can see?
Sure. So again, this beginning cash balance outside of the one that is in green that you enter when you start completing this form is what is in your bank statement as of that date. And then everything starting row 6 through row 9 is any kind of activity that generates revenue in cash from your organization. So whether it's cash sales, funds have come in for a payment of an order, any other kind of miscellaneous income. Then this row 10 is going to automatically sum these areas up here, these cells up here, and generate for you what your cash has been generated by the business. Going down a little bit farther, you have these additional cash activities is in case you had any kind of crowdfunding, or you sold an asset that was to benefit the business, or in the case of COVID, if we go into May, for instance, did you get a small business loan from SBA, from the emergency fund? Did you receive an incentive from a city or a county or an area that provided you with some resources to help maintain your business? This is where that comes in the day you get the money. So again, not the commitment, but when the money actually hits your bank account. If you have any investments that come in, that same thing, enter them in here. Say it was $25 on your savings account, put that in there. So your total cash available in row 22 is the sum of everything above that. Then starting in row 24, that's the cash that you have to spend and have spent in cash, not in credit card, not in anything other than cash when it comes out of the bank account, for your business. So payroll, obviously, if you have staff that is currently working, it would show up here. The payroll taxes, workers' comp, and unemployment are all driven by factors based on payroll. That's why they're in these blue squares over here. So that's your formula. Ignore that. And it will calculate for you. If you have a payroll of $240, $9 goes to take payroll taxes, $1 goes for unemployment, and workers' comp is $1 as well. So don't worry about changing anything in yellow. Then you come down here, and obviously rent is only paid on a monthly basis. That's why this is paid on the 11th, this is paid on the 1st, and maybe they paid it on the 11th because that's when they were allowed to pay it, and they had the cash. Postage, professional services, any kind of fees and licenses, that's an obligation. Again, if money comes out of your bank account automatically, that's when you will reflect it. If it's paid on a credit card, then your credit card statement, if you get it on the 15th, but it's not due until the 5th of the next month, the cash comes out on the 5th. And so it wouldn't show until the 5th in this regard. The sum total of all of your expenses is row 51, again in the yellow, and it is nothing more than the sum total of all of these cells right there. And that's what this row totals. And then the net cash balance is, again, nothing more than row 22, which is your total cash available, less row 51, which is your cash that you spent for the total. And again, the formula is up here. So row 22 and row 51. And you do that for every week. Certainly, when we're not in such a crisis, a monthly cash flow is helpful on for every business at any time, but it's mostly done on a monthly basis because of the significance and the very immediate impact that the shelter in place had with COVID. The importance it became important that the cash flow be looked at on a weekly basis, because again, we didn't know. We were thinking we would open on the 18th. We were hoping it would be the end of April. So these are all the things that we need to project on a much more specific basis because of the unknown. We're hopeful that we all open up June 1st. Some places in the state are going to open this weekend. But knowing what it looks like in the week by week basis, it's really helpful. Once you have a better cadence of your business and business is again operating and being stable, then you can go back to a month to month. But I would strongly recommend all businesses take a look at their cash at least monthly. Because if you have any issues, you can project them beforehand and make decisions to help you. It also allows you to see how many dollars, once you are again successful, that you can maybe expend proactively to grow your business or to expand your business. And if you know how much cash you expect to have, you know how much you can invest in that endeavor.
There's a million questions, great questions. I'm going to let you read some of them. I'm typing as fast as I can to get to them. Lots and lots of good questions. There's one about an LLC. Do you have to use both your business and your personal? If your personal income probably helps you fund your business. If it doesn't, then your personal it isn't as critical. But if it's going to fund your business in any way, shape, or form, if you ever have to dip back into that, you need to put that. It's a good exercise. I've been in running businesses for the last 40 years, and I'll tell you, I have kept cash flow templates like this up to date on a daily basis, sometimes even on an hourly basis. It gets that critical at time, and this is one of those critical times. So I hope you'll I hope you'll really, learn to love your cash flow statement because it's really an important way for you to manage your business. Somebody also asked Allison if we're here to help. We are here to help all the time. All you have to do is go on our website. You can send me a note. You can send Allison a note on our email. MIWF is .org is our email addresses. Mine's C. Casson. Hers is A. Boyle. She's probably going to be mad at me for sending it out, but that's all right. and ask us a specific question. We are happy to help. There's also Hannah who set all of this up is at info at miwf.org. Any question you have, there are no stupid questions in this business. This is a unique time. We're here to help you. So please reach out. If we've had enough of the cash flow statement, as exciting and fun as that is, I'm going to ask Allison to switch to that fourth tab. So first one's personal, second's business, right? Instructions, right. And then the fourth one is your is the recovery plan. So here's the way this works.
Hold on just a second. Just want to make sure folks the question was asked if they have a cash flow statement already, can they submit that for the application instead of using our form? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Just know we do also expect a recovery plan. So again, if you have your own, feel free to upload that. If not, just upload the cash flow that you have and then complete the recovery plan that we have here. That's fine. We're not asking you to do extra work. We're just asking you to do the work to understand the business.
Okay. All right. Well, let's, so this, I'm going to shut the chat box here because I've been typing like crazy to try to get. All right. So now the recovery plan. So the idea here is you're ready to start opening your business, or at least you're ready to think about it and start planning. There are three things that you really need to do. This is a very simple form. This makes cash flow planning look, this looks easy compared to really having to think through how you plan how much cash you're going to have on every single week in the coming months. This really has three parts to it. The first part, which is called recovery, the uses, the cash that you need to accommodate your customers and employees. So the most important thing about starting up your business again is this, right? Your customers have to be safe. They won't come back to your business if they don't feel safe. The second most important, the second and equally important thing is, do your employees feel safe? Because they won't come back to work with you if they don't feel safe. So you have to plan what you're going to do to keep them safe. We've heard from all the experts everywhere, and it was in our governor's executive order that we are going to have to supply things as employers to our employees to make sure they're safe. And you're going to want to do some things in your business that are different than we've ever done before, right? And there are many, and so we want you to start thinking through these, and we want you to assign a dollar value to them. And we want you to be reasonable about it. How many masks you need, how many gloves you need. They're telling us now even consider having some goggles around for those of you who are doing cleaning up and things like that. Make sure that things don't splash in your eyes. You may want those protective shields. You may want some disposable gowns. Look these things up on the internet. You can figure out, I think the last time I looked it up, it was 54 cents for a mask. You could get them that were quality for about 54 cents, some of them are $1 a mask. You have to supply them both to your employees, and if you're running a business establishment where people come in, you should have those there, because there will be people who don't walk in with them, and you want them to be safe, and you want your employees and other customers to be safe. So you should have them there to give them. The next line is about barriers or shields. If where you check out, you may want to put a plexiglass shield. How much is that going to cost? That may be $500. in here. And so we've just plugged some numbers in that we think, this person, we didn't say needed a plexiglass shield, but I would probably get one. We want you to increase the supply of your cleaning solutions. You're going to have to clean more often. You're going to make sure that your employees go wash their hands more often. So you're going to need more. I put in $50 here. I mean, whatever you think is reasonable. You may want to do testing. I'm not sure that's going to be necessary or even possible, but that's in there. So you put anything in here that you can think of. Does that make sense? You can just start with that first row. What I've done here is just copy it onto the second row and the third row, because it doesn't really matter when you start up. It's probably, the price isn't going to change that much in a month, but who knows, right? But let's just assume that it doesn't. So if you're going to start business on June 1st, that's the line there that shows you what it's going to cost you. And so, in our little example, it's going to cost us $2,150 that I need on hand, because I got to go out and buy that stuff. I can't open my doors until I have it, right? The second thing you have to think about is, what do I need to do to open up? How can I reopen? What is going to be different? Do I have to move? I used to be able to fit 50 people in my store, my shop, without thinking a thing of it. I loved it when there were 50 people in there. Now I can only have 20 people or 10 people. So you've got to start thinking through that. Back on your cash flow statement, you're not going to have what you had. You're not going to go back to business as usual that first week, that second week, that first month, probably. So we're going to be under these orders for a while. So you're going to have to cut that in half. Are there other things that you might need to do? Are there any tenant improvements? Do you need to cut a hole in the side of your building so that you can pass delivery things out? I think we're still going to do a lot of delivery. People are maybe not going to want to come in and sit down. So keep that delivery business going, but maybe you better make it easier and more accessible to people. So, we could put in some tenant improvements there. We could put in that we're going to have to get some furniture that allows people to be farther apart. So you might want to have some payroll on hand. People need to come back to work knowing that you're going to have some money to pay them. So you may want to add a little bit of money in here. I need the first 2 weeks payroll, because I don't know if anybody's going to come back to my to my store. So put any expense you can possibly think of that you think is reasonable, because I'm going to call you if it's something that is like really, really off the wall kind of thing. And so make sure that you explain it. All of these things you can change. Just remember, don't ever try to write or change anything in the yellow spaces. Allison, can you scroll down just a little bit more? So anything that you think you need to do, that's the total amount. So by my calculations, the second group, what do I need to reopen, is going to cost $26, and you add those together, that's $47.50. So if you went back up to the top, you saw of the recovery plan, you saw that we've added those two, and so I'm thinking I'm going to need around $5,000, right, to open my business. But how much cash do I have on hand? How much do I have from the cash flow? Do I have any money that I can bring over and pay for some of these things for? Am I going to get any grant money? Don't put it in until you get it, but are you going to need some grant money? We'll be able to see that in the yellow down there, right? Right? We'll be able to see down there at the bottom how much you're actually going to need to reopen. And your grant request or your loan amount should somehow be close to that, right? Don't say you need 10,000 when you really only need 8,500, because that will look at that and say, looks like they really only need 8,500. So we'll probably give you a call and say, we're inclined to say 8,500 on that. So you see how that works. Allison, if people are asking questions, tell me what they're
Yeah,
asking.
I've been able to answer most of them, so keep going.
Okay, so that so it looks like right here on this person, if she opens on June 1st, she's only going to need $500, right? So that's fine, but you might want to see that if you look here, she has that money in the bank. If she doesn't open until June 19th, see how, isn't this the greatest thing? These tell you what's going to happen to you if you wait. Now she's counting on getting some money in, and so she would not if she waited till the 30th. So this gives you a really good information. So you might want to ask for $1,500 just in case that you can't get open on the 1st like you thought you were going to. You can open on the 15th. Now down below that, we want you to tell us anything. A lot of you have been writing questions in the chat room, and frankly, I said to 3 or 4 of you, why don't you just tell us that? My business is seasonal. Of course, there's many seasonal businesses. See, those are the most difficult kind of predictors you can have, and so tell us that. I usually, don't get up and running. I usually get up and running in May. Now I'm not going to get up and running till June. So what am I going to do? And so just plot that out for us. Tell us, write notes, and then tell us if there's anything else that that you might need. We kind of listed some other things, that you might really need in the future. That if this goes on a lot longer. And we'll take those into consideration as well, right? Does that make sense? Any questions? I have to tell you, I think that as painful as this is, because sometimes it shows you how far in the hole you are. And if you're not far in the hole right now, I'd be surprised, because frankly, unless you had a lot of money sitting in the bank, most of us are looking for ways that we can put some of that grant money or loan money into the bank so that we can get back up and running and start running our businesses, start being successful. Any other questions? Anything anybody wants to know?
So some of the things that were asked, still relating to the cash flow, is the costs are your best guess estimates and reasonable given your assumptions. We know no one has a crystal ball, but to assume, for instance, if you're a restaurant or a cafe, that 100% of your revenue is going to come back the first week you're open is not reasonable. No. That's also why it's helpful to have the retrospective weeks in there, because if you expect to generate $5,000 in revenue in a week in February before this happened, 5,000 or 4,900 isn't going to be reasonable in May or June. So it helps you as well to do a reasonableness check. In addition, because of the PPE and other things that are going to be required to reopen, you're going to have additional expenses. And that's what that recovery plan is for, and why it specifically lays out what some of those items are for. And so what we're trying to do, we understand this is not cast in stone, what your assumptions and projections are, but we do rely on you all to be most knowledgeable about how your business can truly open. If you're still, as a carry-out business, you're still generating some monies now, and you know that that's going to continue even when you're able to open partially, keep that string of revenue coming in, and then add a reasonable, per table revenue. That's totally what would be expected. So, again, however it works for you all, you may have to have more staff and therefore more cost because you have to, staff hire. And so that all comes into play, but that's how the whole thing is to work. It's your cash flow and your recovery plan. If you have this idea and you just know that with $1,000 of an investment, you can hire somebody for a growth strategy, put that in there. Because this is what we want you guys to be successful when you reopen. So these funds are intended to help facilitate that. And so whatever it is that you may need, put in there. Now, I understand $5,000 isn't going to be the end all be all for you all in many instances, but it certainly should be something that is meaningful and be able to get you to the next level.
Right. If you need the money to pay your rent, tell us that. If you need the money that, you couldn't pay it last month, this month you've got to get up to that they're not going to give you another month that's a buy. Tell us. Just tell us what you need it for. We want you to get back up and running. We want to help you. And if you have trouble filling this out, just let us know, and we will walk you through it. Hopefully you'll learn to like this as much as we do, because I tell you, it's very hard to run a business without knowing what your cash flow is.
And then I know I've responded in the chat a couple times, but in order for us to be able to evaluate all of the applications we'll receive for the resilience funds for either a grant or a loan, a cash flow and a recovery plan are required. Your application will not get reviewed if it is not completed. And again, it can be a different form. If you already have one through QuickBooks or your accountant, that's fine. But we need the data. Why? Because the funders who have granted these dollars are requiring it. They want to have some quantitative evaluation and reasonableness that providing these funds will increase the likelihood that you all can be successful.
Right. That you knew what you needed. And we gave you some portion of that, if not all of it. And then, we're going to follow up with you. We're going to make sure that that we were right. And if we're wrong, there'll be no penalty, believe me, because this is uncharted territory. As you know, this is not, there's no way any of us know what is going to happen next, or whether we're going to have to do this again in December, who knows. But let's get back up and running. Let's learn to deal with this new reality. Let's keep people safe who come into our stores and buy from us. Let's keep our employees safe so that they can continue to work for us and with us. And let's get back to business. Any other thoughts and questions? All right. Well, this will be tomorrow. If you want to listen to it again, then let us know if there's anything you would have liked to have heard that you didn't hear. You can use this as a template and kind of go through it, fill it out. Sometimes it's easier to start with something that somebody's done, but ideally it's got to really be yours. Because
right. And what you will find on the website is a blank one. So all the numbers that we have in here don't have numbers. We did pull a number on one for the recovery plan, just so you know what it looks like. But again, when you enter the information as 0 for the actual inputs for the revenue, the calculated yellow rows, if you will go to 0. So no worries.
So somebody asked if you had to have Microsoft 10 to open it, because she was having trouble opening it.
I will have to check. I do not know technically if that's the first I've heard that may be an issue, but we can find out. And we can
on the website. Yeah,
and we can put it on the website.
Right. And if you need another version, I'm sure we've got old computers around here somewhere, we can we can get you a different version if we need to.
Or again, worst case, you can if it can't open at all, we can if that's what the issue is, we may be able to send it in a different format. I don't know.
All right, it says there's 10 new questions. Anybody? Let's see. We'll wait a minute or two more here. You can stop the recording.
There was a question that how do you enter utilities in a home-based business? Well, unless you're separating home and business before this happened, the answer is you don't. Because generally you don't have an expense related to the business for something you're doing that's also at home.
Right.
So that would just, just because this happened doesn't change that method.
Right. Yeah, the complicated thing I think for people who are in smaller businesses or startup where personal and business blend, just try to use the the thinking that would I have this? I'm going to pay for this rent, right, for my house or something. I'm going to pay for it anyway, whether or not I have this business in it. So you probably wouldn't assign cost to it. Now, when you decide to go on a brick and mortar, I'm gonna tell you you're gonna have to pay for it. But that's not our issue here today. It's really you can separate them. You don't have to give us information. We're not going to use any of this information anywhere. We assure you. We have all of our people have signed not to disclose policies, so that nobody is ever gonna is gonna see this or you're not going to find this somewhere else that you don't want it. It's just to inform us so that we can allocate the right number of funds to you. And we want it to go as far as possible, of course. What are those new messages? Anything that we should respond to?
Down them, let's see.
Can't decide if I'm going to the wrong.
Will this be something that we can begin filling out and save return to? Yes, you should be able to. You should be able to save it, and it will just go in process, if you will. And once you complete it, and then you upload it into the application.
A question about back to the utilities. If you pay your utilities out of the business, that's sort of your rent, right? So you're paying. So yes, include it. That's an expense that your business has to
Right.
has to absorb, right? So yes, see, you're getting it. That's good.
And then the deadline for the application, these are rolling applications. So regrettably, it's a first come, first serve, but that assumes that the applications are complete and that and I will underscore again, that the cash flow and the recovery plan are included, because without that, we can't move the application forward. We have a lot of money that we're going to be able to give away in up to $5,000 grants and $10,000 loans, but only with the evaluation process that we go through, which includes those, as well as the narratives and the answers to the other questions that are being asked on the applications. The loan application is slightly longer because it's a longer term obligation and a repayment obligation from the small business. Than the grant, but the grant does also still require the recovery plan and a cash flow.
Yep. And there's room there for you to write. You can upload other things. Anything you can help us to understand, better understand your business. We've been in business a long time, and you know we have an understanding. Sometimes some of you surprise us. And you ask us a question we've never seen before, we don't have any answers to. But most of the time, it's something we've seen before, heard before. And so we're happy that anything at all you can send us with the application. If you have trouble, we've had a few people who've had trouble opening it, so do let me know, okay?
And also there's a question here, can you get a grant and a loan if your needs are more than $5,000? Yes, you can. The total ask can't be more than 15, which is a $10,000 loan and a $5,000 grant. But you can apply for both. There are 2 applications though. The good thing is most of the attachments from the grant apply to, and you can just secondarily upload them to the loan. But the loan does take additional paperwork because of the obligation.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have some of that loan paid back. So that is a longer application. It's a little more serious. We're gonna look at your credit report. We're gonna look at some more detail. We'll need some your taxes and things like that, because those are that's a legal obligation. The legal obligation for the grant is that you're successful. You have to let us come to your place of establishment and take a picture of you. That's the only legal.
Here's another question. Is a profit and loss statement from the last year 2019 helpful? Absolutely, for both a grant and a loan. For a loan, it's required. But for a grant, it's very helpful. Again, we're trying to advocate for each of you for these funds to be approved for your business. So the more information that you can give us that demonstrates the strength, stability, and focus of being able to successfully reopen, the better.
What's the interest rate on the loan? Great question. We're going to try to use some dollars that that have been allocated to us from the SBA for these micro loans. And the exciting news about these SBA dollars, if you qualify, is that they will pay the first 6 months of the payments. The interest rate is 8%, but if you take out a 1-year $10,000 loan, at the end of the first year, you'll only owe, well, at the end of the first 6 months, you'll only owe $5,000. So this is a great product. I am so excited about this product that the SBA is allowing us until September. After that, this goes away. So that's why we're so anxious, and we want to get these loan products out to you because you will never see them again. I hope, because the only reason we're seeing them is because of the pandemic. I hope we never see them again, because that means we're back to business as usual. So it's an 8% loan, but you can do it over 1 year or 2 years, even 3 if you choose. But I would really encourage you not to do that, because think about the numbers there. You have a $10,000 loan that you're going to pay back over 2 years. They're only going to pay off 25% of your loan. If you have the first 6 months out of 24, right? So that's not as good a deal as a 1-year loan, and they pay off the first 6 months. It's really an exciting product. So I hope you can. I hope you can. If you need more than $5,000, fill out the loan application. We're happy to help you. Thanks all of you for spending time with us. Anything else anybody wants to know? All right. Well, you know
Thank
you know
you.
where to find us, right? MIWF.org, and someone will respond to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right.
We'll stay on in case somebody has a chat that they want to add until
Yeah,
everybody's
we'll stay on, but make Hannah stop taping this, because it's
Yes, but Hannah can stop taping.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you. We're so glad to meet you virtually and can't wait to see you in person. Yes, you can play for both a loan and a grant. Where was